Hello everyone, welcome to the Commando Cast. I'm Andrew.
I'm Alex, and we're here to talk about the Convergence draft that just came out.
Alright guys, so both Alex and I did a bunch of drafting this last weekend, so that's what we wanted to talk about today, was our thoughts with the new Convergence draft. Now, of course, elephant in the room, of course, is that the new draft set isn't out yet. So what we're going to be trying to do is kind of analyze what we saw this last weekend if the new draft kit were also out and how it might change things, which I think we both agree would be for the better.
Yeah, I think now it's a little more interesting because I think in the prior sets, you didn't really care about drafting characters, or you could if you wanted to, but you were fine.
You'd draft
right.
one, and then you were done. Right?
And you were fine. Yeah, so you would maybe draft one character so you could play Rainbow, because you couldn't with the normal draft set characters. And then you just pick dice cards and removal and be happy. So now, and without trying to be too negative, because I've already been negative enough on the fact that the draft kit didn't come out, but I think it actually puts a lot more strategy into it, because you really want to pick characters that can actually turn on a lot of the cards.
Right.
So if you pick up Mace, for example, who is a leader Jedi, he turns on a bunch of cards that people are going to be passing normally, and it opens up your draft strategy in a great way, because there's a lot of value cards that just get passed around because no one can actually use them, and you can just take them up.
Yeah, so let's go into that, because that's one of the ones that you had brought to the table was Disciplined Mind. So this is spot a Jedi to remove it's a one-cost blue card, spot a hero card, but of course that doesn't matter in draft, right? But spot a Jedi to remove a non-Jedi die.
So it's basically remove any die that's not Mace Windu or Vigilant Jedi. I think those are the only two Jedis that exist right now. So yeah, I mean, one-for-one removal, non-conditional in draft is amazing. I mean, you're not gonna get any better than that for the most part, and it's common, and so there's tons that are being passed around,
and like you said, nobody's taking them,
and no one's taking them, right?
You, like, assuming of course that you grabbed the Jedi, no one else has a Jedi, so they're just going to keep passing those around.
I think Mace is probably, I mean, he's amazing, and probably people can figure that out, but even Vigilant Jedi for 8 cost, he's basic. Actually, I think he's just better than Anakin. You lose a little bit of health.
He's a two for one. Yeah, he's basically Anakin.
I think the same sides. The special is remove a character die, showing damage.
I think it's remove a die showing damage.
Showing damage to deal,
so we'll
put
him up, obviously. But the Vigilant Jedi is remove a die showing damage, then deal 1 damage to a character.
Which is a great. I mean, it's better than Anakin special almost all the time. You lose a little bit of health, but he's 2 less points, so you can tinker around with maybe a plot or some other characters, but I mean, one-for-one removal spot a Jedi, non-Jedi dice, it's amazing.
Okay, so you already mentioned Mace. What were some other characters that you were either surprised by or were consistently going for this weekend?
I think Watt is amazing in draft. He's a leader, which is incredibly relevant to a lot of the things going on in draft anyways. For the most part, you're using supports, I think, a lot more than you maybe normally would.
Well, especially in this current format with the Fang Fighter, right? Because, I mean, it's no secret that the Fang Fighter has been probably the primary utility card of most draft decks.
Right.
And he just makes it way better. Especially because with his ability, that card still comes in with Ambush, so you get to roll it in with Ambush.
And I'll say here, as I got blown out by it, using Watt's power action to play the Star Viper to hit a special to blow out my Fang Fighter. I mean, that I was about to concede on the. I mean, I might as well have conceded at the spot. It was the game was over, but that's what it felt like. It was
that's huge,
brutal.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, I was able to draft Watt on my second draft. So we drafted at Gongai on Thursday, and then we drafted again Gongai Saturday. Alex was at that one, went to a different one on Thursday. But yeah, I got Watt on Saturday, and I mean, he's pretty good. And 2 money sides also is not to be underestimated.
Right. And anyone with the 2 focus side in draft is invaluable.
Right.
Just because the biggest issue in draft is consistency and just having a 2 focus. And generally people have lack of removal, so you can almost flip to the sides that you want and just have go on your merry way.
So yeah, actually to that end, that brings up 2 other characters that I had drafted independently over the weekend. Didn't end up using either one of them, but I drafted Sly Moore
Yep.
And I drafted Lorsan Tekka. Lorsan is 9 for 10. 9 cost for 10 really health good. At the 2 focus side. And then Sly Moore has a 2 focus side. And then a weird special, let me pull it up. It's...
is it remove a die showing a blank?
Yeah, and then make them discard a card, I believe. Yeah, so it's turn a die to a side showing a blank, and turn a die to a side showing a blank, and discard a random card from one's hand. So that comes up, but mostly you're hoping for the 2 focus on that.
Right.
So,
and even the special is sort of a force jump, a little bit force jump-esque, which is good. I mean, discarding cards, 2 cards probably per hand you're spent discarding to reroll on average, unless you just have amazing playables. So really cutting down people's options to hit that is amazing.
Yeah. So, and actually to that end, and then we'll skip back to the characters, but that card with Leia on it that makes you discard a card from their hand, and then if so, discard 3 from their mill 3 from their deck. I drafted that all weekend and I never used it once.
Yeah.
So it just never worked out in draft. So, but I thought that was going to be hugely impactful, especially because you can play. There's no limit to how many copies of cards you can play. So I ended up, I think on Thursday I had 3 copies in my deck and never used them.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I haven't seen it yet, it'd probably be tricky, but so many of these games, draft games go to time a lot.
Right.
If you ever get to the point where you can make some sort of dedicated mill deck, or maybe not dedicated mill deck, but as a secondary win condition, I think it'd be really strong.
Yeah. Well, you were punishing me with Resistance Ring on Saturday.
So I think Resistance Ring, and I don't want to skip ahead either to what we're going to talk about this or even in the Constructed, I think it's an amazing card.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So one character who I was really surprised with how good he was over the weekend was Dengar. Again, for kind of the same reason that Alex spoke to earlier, right? There's several common bounties, and they get passed around quite a bit. And if you can end up with Dengar, you can easily get 2 to 3 bounties in your deck pretty easy, which almost guarantees with the mulligan you can get 1 turn round, or 1 on the first round. So Dengar is actually pretty useful. And he's got 50% damage sides that are non-pay, so he's not too bad in draft.
And if you hit some of those bounties, if you ever trigger it, you set yourself so far ahead for the round.
Well, the draw 3 cards one at some point is just like, okay, I get to keep re-rolling until I hit something.
Basically. Yeah. It's just guaranteed fodder that you're going to be able to hit what you need.
Right.
Another character who I was pretty impressed with, who did a lot of work actually, was Sentinel Messenger.
Yeah.
Getting the 6 card off the top. I mean, you're not always going to play it, but if you save some money to sort of make it flexible so you can play it, it's great. I mean, playing a hidden motive off the top is just amazing.
On Thursday, I got to do that one time. I got to motive off the top, which is pretty sweet.
Great. I got to use a card not in my hand, and then maybe remove a dice. Felt good, and his sides are solid. 2 melee. I think he has 2 focus sides. A buck.
It's 2 melee and 2 single focus sides. Yeah.
He's solid.
Yeah, pretty good. One that I was impressed with, Brenton won on Thursday night with K2, and that was pretty much the reason he won. He's just like, I'm gonna re-roll my die, and now I'm gonna re-roll 2 of my die, and it's just like, that's pretty good in draft.
Yeah, the things that in Constructed, I don't know, you maybe wouldn't play are a lot better in draft. Like the sort of re-roll generally I think is too low impact in Constructed, but in draft, I mean, a good chunk of your time is spent re-rolling. Or if they use their 2 focus and then you can re-roll their die, that's really strong. I think it just ends up being a battle of who can hit the sides that they want the fastest.
Yeah, or if you can disrupt their focus or whatever. And to that end, actually, the Battlefield Salt Flats, that battlefield is really good. Enzo was using that against me, but I took it because I had Watt, so I could immediately put Watt on his 2 focus and put pressure on.
And even because I think, generally you would want to flip a leader to a 2 focus or whatever the case may be, but even flipping their die to a blank as a power action is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, so that's a really good battlefield. I'd look for that to draft if you can, and if you think you can stay on top of it. And then any other characters? I think I hit the ones I was impressed. I had the Sentinel Messenger as well, so I was impressed with that one as well. Let's see. Somebody did draft Palpatine. It didn't really work very well.
Yeah, I think before when I was thinking about it, I was like, Palpatine is probably, and this was in the context of sealed. And of course, if you're just keeping Palp, then you're going to take him probably for the money. But in a sort of competitive game state, taking Palp is probably not the decision, just because
14 points is a lot,
and his text is more or less blank. unless you're building around it, and there's just Force Storm, Soresu Mastery, and Soresu Training, I think. Oh, I guess Malice, maybe.
Yeah.
But the likelihood that you get any of those is just so...
Yeah, because they have to be in your box.
Right.
They have to be in the box first off, and then you have to actually get them, and it's pretty... Yeah, I agree.
I like their ship, though.
And he does have a 2-focus side, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're playing Mace for, except Mace is way more cost-effective.
Right. And I like the Imperialis. It's pretty solid.
Yeah, actually, that put me... I was playing against Ben on Thursday, and I had him pretty handily, and then he dropped the Imperialis, rolled the special, and then just like hit me for 4 indirect, and that's a pretty big swing in draft.
Yeah, it's a nice... I was sort of... And I'm a little bit down on it for him specifically, but the ship itself is good. I mean, it has a 2-focus side, and then it has a special side that you can maybe use to win the game with.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's only 2 cost, right? As opposed to like a lot of the vehicles we've seen before, like that type, are 3, and that one being only 2 makes a big difference in draft. Right?
No, I agree.
So. All right, so let's talk about cards being passed around. After the dice cards are gone. What were you specifically looking for?
And just to like maybe go back a little bit, if you can get Sonic Detonators, absolutely grab them because it's ridiculous in draft.
Yes, Sonic Detonators is stupid good.
Yeah, it's repeatable thermal detonator. I mean, everyone's playing 3-wide for the most part, so it's 12 damage potentially. Right. And then even after that, it has a 2 discard side, which is just brutal. But yeah, beyond that, sort of cards that you just sort of keeps going around. We talked about Disciplined Mind, but obviously that's limited to if you have a Jedi.
Sure.
So it's kind of tricky to make work.
I think interesting to note, there is no Jedi in the new draft kit.
Right. I think you have to play Knighthood.
The card that makes a Jedi.
Which is, hard mulligan and hope you get it, which is not a great strategy.
It's too combo-y.
Yeah, it is not a strategy.
With 1 copy in your 24 to 26 card deck, it's too risky. Right?
Which is... I get it that they couldn't make every character a Jedi,
sure,
or they couldn't make one of the existing characters a Jedi. But yeah, even when that draft kit comes out, it's still going to make those Jedi cards hard to play unless you get one of the few that exist. But beyond that, I think was it Sinister Piece.
So Sinister Piece is 0 cost. You can discard another. You play it and then discard another card from your hand to discard a die of 2 or more.
2 or more, right? So it is limiting, but I think if a lot of the stuff you get in draft is not particularly great, so you're not super sad about discarding a card. Sure. And if you can remove a 2-focus, for example, which are plentiful, I think you're feeling pretty good about that.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that the cards that were the utility cards that are reprints, Electroshock, Field Medic, Isolation, those are all very solid cards. Yeah. One for something. It's not that hard to spot a blue. It's not that hard to spot a yellow. And obviously you're building around that or drafting around that. And then Field Medic is essentially the same as those cards. It's just a retroactive removal, right?
It might as well be remove 2 damage or remove a die showing 2 damage.
It's just a retroactive removal. So those cards I think are solid to grab. The other one, the card that is bonkers in draft that you should absolutely take and could even consider taking over like a subpar dice card is Forsaken. So Forsaken is play only if any player has only 1 die in their pool, remove a die. So it's very common in draft that someone only has 1 because your characters only have 1 die on them, right? Like you're probably not going to get an elite character. So it's pretty common somebody rolls in, Anakin just hit that 2, gone for 0.
Yeah.
Card's amazing.
That card is ridiculous, and I think it'll be the best removal in the set, just because of how conditional it is. I mean, it's really a not condition because pretty much everything turns it on. Yeah, even in Constructed. I think, to skip ahead a little bit, I think everyone's going to be playing 3-wides with a bunch of 1 characters.
Yeah.
So, like, I roll in Watto, and then you do something, and then I remove
I see what you're saying.
Dice. I can remove at least 1 of them, right? I think Snoke, it very easily keys into a Snoke deck just because it's villain blue, right?
Yeah.
And Snoke is playing with...
Yeah, fair enough. So you're saying you roll in your
right, and then they do something, and then you remove.
And then, how do you feel about Electromagnetic Pulse? So that's a 0 cost gray that you can remove a droid or vehicle die.
So I guess in draft, it's basically remove Fang Fighter.
Yeah, or
potentially
Sentinel
Messenger.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Again, and this is kind of feeding back to what you talked about Mace, right? So when I grabbed the Sentinel Messenger, all of a sudden I could start taking automated defense, which is
automated defense is great.
To die. Yeah. Sentinel Messenger is awesome to pull right out for that reason. But yeah, I mean, Electromagnetic Pulse pulls that. There's not a ton of droids actually in the set.
There's not.
They're all in the starter set.
Yeah,
right?
they're in the starter. Yeah. It's basically if you can get Sentinel Messenger, just take this card as much as you can. Mm-hmm. And if not, then it's. I guess now I'm talking about automated defense, right?
Yeah. Which isn't, again, it's not that. It's one of those things where automated defense keeps getting passed around because nobody has a droid.
That's right.
But yeah, for Electromagnetic Pulse, like I think it's worth taking as maybe like your 5th or 6th pick range.
And I think it's gray, right? So you're never going to be punished too bad, right? Yeah. And I think most decks are going to play Fang Fighter if you have red. So like worst case scenario, you're playing another Fang Fighter.
I don't know why you wouldn't play Fang if you're playing red, right?
A few other dice. I really like Resistance Ring. I think it's really just a solid card.
Well, 1-cost die, right?
And it has.
I mean, you'd play Malice for the same reason if you get it, right?
And it has a focus. It has the modified resources is not the best, but usually you can link it up somewhere. And playing the special, being able to play an event from someone's discard pile is great.
Right.
Playing Field Medic. And going back to the reprints, playing Best Defense is a great card.
Oh, Best Defense. I forgot about that. Yeah. We'll add
I'm
that
just remembering now.
Yeah,
Best Defense is amazing. Playing a second Best Defense out of your discard with Resistance Ring is like 7 times as amazing. Poor Lobot is just in there taking
by that point, Lobot's in trouble. But.
Yeah, poor Lobot is just getting drilled. But no, I think that card.
See, but now, okay, so let's skip ahead to the next draft kit. Would you still be playing Best Defense if it was doing it Finn Rao? Because he only has 9 health and he's pretty good.
Yeah, that's probably not. 2 die for 3 damage is probably still worth it if one of those dies is like a 2 focus or something.
Mm-hmm. Or a Fang.
Or Fang, right. But then the math gets a little bit closer. And yeah, Finn Rao is a lot better.
Although, to be fair, you can use him to play Best Defense and deal an indirect. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but... All right, so yeah, that'll kind of move us, I think. Were there any more cards we missed? I don't think so. Well, we may think of them as we go.
I was impressed with Holocron, or Jedi Holocron.
Oh, really?
But I had Mace.
Was that just for money and focus? Or?
Right. And even, actually, the special, when you were you didn't need the resource or the focus, hitting the special, even if you have no intention or you have no blue abilities, drawing 3 cards is not the end of the world.
Yeah, and it goes back in your deck.
And it goes back in your deck,
yeah, fair enough. Especially, and then with Mace.
Mace, like play it from the top, play it, and then like next turn maybe get it again.
Sure.
Mace is great. He can do a lot of
Mace's power action in draft to make you like, because dice cards are hard to get in draft, right? That's not a secret, and pulling out the dice cards. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're support heavy, I suppose, but still.
I saw someone who had both Mace and Mace's Saber, and it was disgusting. Yeah. That's pretty rough. Mace is fantastic. And the 2-cost card, that's Spot a Jedi, Spot a Leader. It's basically sort of like Beguile.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's a hero card, right?
Right.
It is Strong Intuition. No.
Channel the Force.
Discipline. Oh. No.
Is it Channel the Force? I think it is.
Channel the Force. Reroll a die. You may spot a leader to turn a die to any side. You may spot a Jedi to remove a die.
I mean, it has Mace Windu's picture on it for a reason. If you get Mace Windu, take this card. It's amazing. It's Beguile, except better because you can change one of the dice to one of your dice to
your die. Yeah.
Basically, I'm changing Mace's to 2 focus.
Yeah.
And you're removing one of yours and probably blanking one of yours.
Yeah. All right. So, now let's move on to the final part of the discussion, which is what do we expect to change with the new draft kit coming out? So, I'll start. I noticed that, so there's only 1 Sith in the set, and that's Palpatine. Right. And there are at least 3 or 4 cards that somehow reference Sith that are just dead cards in most drafts. Right? So, obviously, Dooku's a Sith. That will help that significantly. Right? I think that's probably the lowest hanging fruit out there, and Dooku's really good too, right? So I
think the Dooku's great and will help. Is he leader Sith or just Sith? I don't know if it particularly matters, but turning on the leader cards helps. I know Fenn Rau is leader trooper, so maybe he's not. He might just be Sith.
Yeah, I bet he's not a leader.
That'd probably be a little bit much.
Because like Vader's not a leader,
right?
Palpatine's not a leader.
And the only thing I think of is Mace is a leader Jedi, so I don't know if they have any intention of making like a flip to that. I think the biggest probably change or biggest update will be the fact that there's a scoundrel that you can play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's sort of pretty difficult to pick up.
So Dooku actually is a leader.
So that actually is significant. But yeah, I think being able to play the yellow character as a scoundrel will help turn on some things that weren't necessarily available before. Because I think there's like a few cards. Was it Unscrupulous? You can only play in a scoundrel.
I screwed up on that twice. Yeah. That was embarrassing. I pulled it twice thinking I could use it, and it was scoundrel only. The first time I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was scoundrel only. The second time I was like, sweet, I drafted Dengar, I can use it. But nope. Dengar's not a scoundrel.
Yeah, I think Dengar and the Tracker are both bounty hunters. And then Maz is a scoundrel.
Yeah, I think so.
And then
I think so, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go into like talking about the legendaries because they're so, I mean, the likelihood you get them are way less, but like, you know, Jabba is a scoundrel. Chewie's a scoundrel. But
yeah, Jabba was actually pretty good in draft, that 10-13 slot. The only weakness is that he can only pull yellow events, right? So
yeah, I think Jabba would be great in draft. I'm not super high on him in constructed, but I think in draft he's actually really good. Just having a +2 resource side.
And yeah, Maz is a scoundrel.
Yeah. I saw Maz's power action. I think this has been discussed, but be careful with the power action. Letting your opponent reroll all their dice on your turn is pretty dangerous.
See, so Enzo had him on Saturday, and Maz's power action is the reason I won the game because he was doing well. He did it every turn, right? And I was just dealing the indirect.
Yeah,
because 3 to 4 indirect over the course of a turn is significant, or over the course of a game is significant, right? So
it's like I mean, I'm sure everyone has maybe played enough to where sound the alarm just blows you the hell out of the water because you reroll all of their dice, they land on more damage, and now it's their turn. But yeah, I think the same thing can happen.
Yeah. Okay, so we expect Dooku to shape it. What else do we do? You think that scoundrel, the 8-cost draft character, yellow character,
I don't even remember her name because it's so generic.
It is the Outer Rim Outlaw.
Okay, there you go.
Do you expect that to change anything?
I think it'll turn on some of the scoundrel cards. Yeah, the price is not great. The power action is actually, I think, really good. Just the free reroll. It's pretty sweet. Playing a yellow event. I mean, there's tons of yellow events that you can play. But I think there's just some cards out there that you need a scoundrel for, so that'll be somewhat useful. Like I saw, is it something cash? That has like
the
+2
Rebel Cash. Yeah.
Like being able to put a resource on that and like +2.
It's not just one resource; it's several resources, I believe.
I think it's whenever one of your dice rolls a resource, you get to put money on it.
After you roll you roll one or more dice, so even on the rerolls, and then the specials take 2 resources from the support. So that is a hero card, but if you can somehow figure out the Crime Lord, Infus Crime Lord, whatever, like that'll make you some money, right?
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I thought it was pretty solid because even then you still have like the +2 and +3 damage. You still have to find like a range damage, which can be tricky, but I think overall solid. I think Fenn Rau will be good. Like he'll close out the games, I think, in a lot of instances, and there's a lot of good red events.
I think Fenn Rau is going to be really strong. Plus, Measure for Measure, right, is a bonkers card. Although I guess with his 2 guns, you're probably hoping, because he has 2 guns and a focus, right? So you're hoping that you're not going to remove his die, I suppose. But troopers are not as hard to find. That Naboo Palace Guard gets passed around.
First Order,
he's pretty good.
Yeah.
The First Order Stormtrooper.
Yeah, Measure for Measure is a great card in draft if you have a trooper, because for the most part, obviously not Fenn because I think you want his dice, but like you're not super sad if you lose the Honor Guard or if you lose a Foss dice.
And Conscript Squad is a trooper.
Oh yeah, and you have supports that can turn it on too.
Right. So Imperial Officer's not, but
I think she's a leader.
Yeah,
or it's a leader.
But yeah, so the only other card that I think might be really impactful, and I didn't really think it would be until I kind of saw how the set was hashing out with draft, is that -2 plot in draft, I think is really almost needed in this set. Because there's kind of a lot of characters in like that 10 to 11, 12 range.
Yeah.
And I think it may open up a lot of paths for very interesting drafts.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I was pretty down on it in draft before, but then I saw just a lot of money floating around, and like losing a card isn't the end of the world. I think that opens up a lot more interesting pairings. I think it's still a little bit stronger in constructed because you can sort of build around it. But
I think that's a given. But I guess what I'm saying is I think it's potentially going to be more useful than I think I initially thought it would be in draft.
Yeah, and I think there's a good amount of ways to make money. Like the 0 cost gain a resource, but you can only play it when you control the battlefield. I think that's
fresh
solid.
supplies. That card is good. Worth. Like if you have that in your opening hand, that card's worth not taking the battlefield, right? So,
and one thing just to mention over this draft or this set in general, there's a lot of impactful battlefields. Mm-hmm. I mean, nothing's quite rivaling Theed, but there's a lot of battlefields where I think the right decision is not just to auto choose whatever theirs is to take the shields, where you actually might want yours, because there's a lot of good synergy if you can make it happen.
Right.
There's like the pit fight or the pit.
Fighting pit.
Fighting pit is like sweet. You get a free reroll and then do some damage to each other.
Actually the fighting pit, I'm going to bring it up here. It has an interesting way that it's written, right? So power action, reroll an opponent's character die, period. Reroll one of your character die, period. Then deal damage to those characters equal to the value showing on the other character's die, right? So what's interesting here is with the way it's written currently, you can reroll die without having another die, right? So let's say they have a die in the pool, you could trigger it. Now they wouldn't take any damage because A, you don't get to the completion.
That's right.
And B, there's no other die. But mainly from the rule standpoint, it's because you don't get to the completion, which is after the then. But you can actually just use it straight up to make somebody reroll their die.
Yeah.
So, or vice versa, you can reroll your die.
Yeah, and you know, doing it like on a sort of like doing it on Lobot's die. I mean, especially if it's like showing a special.
You mean their Lobot?
Yeah, their Lobot, and like your mace or whatever.
Right.
You're just, I mean, it's all money, right? Like, okay, I'll take a damage to get you off of.
Well, our game, that's what you were using was with mace, right?
Right.
Who has 50% twos.
Yeah.
It's
you're like,
pretty good.
you're like, I do 2 damage to you. You don't get like the 2 good sides on Lobot, and I get something different.
Right.
Yeah, I think that one's a solid one. Salt Flats, which you brought up, is good. Great. The one, if you can make it work, which is not the easiest thing to do, but the draft kit will eventually, is I think it's military camp, where you just get
the 2 troopers,
roll out all your stuff.
roll out all your stuff, but they have to match. So it's activated from 2 characters that share a subtype.
Yeah.
So it's
hard to turn on.
If
but
one of those is a trooper, you can re-roll one of its character dice. So
I saw
maybe
2 leaders.
With Finral, that's doable, I suppose. 2 leaders. Actually, 2 leaders isn't that hard to do in the set. There's actually a fair number of leaders in the set.
Yeah.
Those were really the only ones. The mean streets I did see play quite a bit. So claim you may spot a scoundrel to place 1 resource on this battlefield. You can play an event from your hand, decreasing its cost by the number of resources on this battlefield. In theory, that's good. I guess it just helps you maybe play a removal card when you can't.
I think having a scoundrel is kind of tricky.
It generally didn't do much.
There's the Flee the Scene, the 1 cost, where they have to remove 2 dice, and then they have to pass their 2 actions.
Right.
I know that was played against me, and then what I did was, with the first action, I just took a bunch of money, and then the second action, I just passed and went to the next round. It didn't really help the other person too much.
Gotcha.
I think I ended up with like 5 resources, and basically they just had a bunch of unresolved dice. So that's just one to watch out for. It can sort of bite you in the similar way that Maz's power action can get you.
Yeah. So I think we're looking forward to the draft kit for obvious reasons. I know most everybody probably kind of blew their wad in draft this weekend. So hopefully when the draft kit comes out in a month-ish, whenever, we'll probably do some drafting again, but probably in a more limited aspect because everyone already have their stuff. Yeah. So I don't know, but it'll be good.
Yeah, I think it was fun. I liked the new set. I think there's a lot of synergies. I think just a little bit of the downside is it's hard to explore some of those synergies when you don't have the backdrop of the draft kit to be able to use some of the cool cards.
Yeah. There was just a lot of automatically dead cards.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was, did my initial card pool have something that I could leverage to use these cards later on? If not, then I can't really take those. Which is, I mean, that's sort of the nature, I think, of having a very synergistic set, which this one obviously is.
Yeah, when you hit,
right.
And if you don't, you're out. Right?
Yeah, so. But on the flip side, it just makes it that taking a character with a relevant subtype is a lot more important than it ever was.
Yeah. Well, which is, to
point.
feedback into what you're saying, you like that it's more strategically drafting now, right?
Yeah. So. Otherwise, let's say one of these, pay one to remove one. I mean, in some other draft, right, you're just taking those until you have 8 of them and you're happy and you don't care what characters you get.
Right.
So I think the strategy changes a lot, the fact that the draft kit isn't out.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. All right, what are you looking forward to this next week? What are you planning on running for Constructed?
Constructed, I want to run Snoke Watto First Order Stormtrooper. I think
Watto Snoke seems pretty good.
I think that's interesting. I'm really looking forward. I think the Scoundrel synergy between Entourage and Fickle Mercenaries, and I guess you can't do Hired Muscle yet because it's not out yet, but I think those cards are really good, and then you have Mega Blasters. And
so that's worth playing Jabba for, you think? Or no?
For playing...
for playing Scoundrels? Just getting Scoundrels out there?
Yeah, I think if you just have... There's enough supports, I think, that have it. So I think you just need, like, Watto. Because Entourage can...
Oh, so you're going to do it with Snoke?
Right.
I gotcha.
Yeah, because you can get Entourage into either Hired Muscle or the Fickle Mercenary.
Yeah.
And I think if you get 3 of those out plus Watto, the special's doing 4 damage. And it also has a 2 resource side on it, so you're just using like that to get more out.
Yeah. Nice.
And then Mega Blaster Troopers that just roll out.
Mega Blasters is so
dice.
good.
And then you have Route, which leverages the 1,000,000 dice you have in the pool. And not to skip ahead too much, but I think this is post rotation. It's just going to be get all your dice in the pool as fast as you can, because there's really no way to effectively deal with 1,000,000 dice.
Yeah, well, I mean, block and dodge were reprinted, but that's not really what you're going for. You're going for, I guess, money at this point. But
maybe dodge is now playable because, are these melee stick decks, what's really happening with those? Are you going to expect to see them that often? I mean, I guess they're going to be dead sometimes, but...
Yeah, we'll see. I think you're nailing it on the head. I think the meta is going to be pretty much the 3 wide table swarms, and then it's going to be 2 wide indirect or something.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, because I'm going to bring just because of what we pulled, I'm probably going to bring Phasma Troopers on Monday. I think that seems like a lot of fun to have anyway. So. I don't know. Other than that, I know we're looking forward to Constructed. Alex and I are going to be back very shortly with another episode talking about early decks from this upcoming meta. This meta now.
The new meta, yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, go Commando.
Go Commando.